Hi, Vanessa. Welcome to MovieJunk. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm great. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
You are my
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's date.
I was just gonna say, man, I wouldn't want to spend this with anybody else. I mean, this is awesome. Valentine's Day with Vanessa Angel. Best.
Blind date too, right?
I know this is definitely a blind date, but we're definitely going to get to know each other a lot better during this interview. And we have a very special edition of Movie Junk today. We have world-renowned actress and model Vanessa Angel joining us today. Special Valentine's Day edition. Thank you enough for joining today.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm happy to be here.
And I mean, you've been in some of the all-time classic films. I mean, like Spies Like Us, Kingpin, Hall Pass, which again, these all happen to be some of my favorite films of all time, and also some hit shows like Baywatch, Weird Science, just to name a few. If I'm not mistaken, Spies Like Us was your first feature film. Is that correct?
Yes, it was my first introduction into the movie world, and I was completely spoiled because it was this huge Warner Brothers movie with big stars and a big budget, and we shot in Norway and London at Pinewood Studios, and they shot some in LA, although I wasn't in those scenes. So I thought that all movie making was like that.
Yeah.
So I was in for a rude awakening once that movie finished, and I was out there like trying to get the next thing. But it was an amazing experience. I mean, it was really, I had, the director, John Landis, had seen some photographs of me in a magazine, and he was actually in London at the time. And I was going back to London to visit my family because I grew up there. And I went to meet him, and I didn't really think anything of it. He asked me if I had any acting experience, and I said, oh, well, I did some school plays and I did a commercial. So I remember sending him the reel of my commercial. I had done a Diet Pepsi commercial. So I sent him that. And then 2 months later, I heard that he wanted to meet me again. And after that meeting, I found out that I got the part. And so, yeah, it's really started my whole career.
Now, this was prime time Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. I mean, this is after Vacation. This is after Ghostbusters. I mean, it's amazing that you landed this role, but were there any added pressure, working with these guys, especially during that time?
Yeah, I mean, that was, like you said, really in their height. And I was a big fan of Saturday Night Live. So I was, I was really excited to work with them. And yeah, I mean, not only did I meet Dan and Chevy, but and John Landis, obviously, and the rest of the cast. But Dan introduced me to Bill Murray because they had done Ghostbusters a couple of years before. So yes, I was I was completely spoiled, and they were so kind to me, and they really made me feel comfortable. I mean, luckily the role didn't really require much acting ability, so luckily I could just sort of wing my way through it. But it was it was great, and after that I realized that I really didn't know what I was doing. So I needed to go to class and study and figure out how to really, hone a craft. So the next time I wouldn't make a laughing stock of myself.
No, I mean, you were amazing. You have that very famous scene that you were actually changing in the snow, right? Where you come out of the tent, you're changing in the snow. Now, was that scene really cold? Was that just like a Hollywood set? I mean, what was it like shooting that scene?
That was really in Norway. We were in the fjords of Norway. All the parts of that were Russia in the movie were in Norway, and so it was really freezing. And they had a little heater in the tent. So between take, actually that scene, believe it or not, took a lot longer than you'd think because they did like a far away kind of point of view and some different angles. So it took a while, and I would just like run into the into the tent and get warm between takes. But it was it was really freezing.
Any funny stories you could share just from Chevy Chase or Dan Aykroyd? You said you were also introduced to Bill Murray during this time. Are there any memorable stories that you carry from yourself from back then?
Well, I mean, they just made me laugh so much. I mean, Dan would listen to, would listen to would listen to, was it BB King, or he was like into something like some music at the time, and that's when Walkmans were around. Remember? Well, you're probably too young to remember Walkmans.
I had a Walkman.
Okay. And so he would just sort of dance around, and we would get together at night and eat venison, because that was like the only thing you could eat pretty much in Norway. So we had lots of fun dinners, and I remember Dan was staying, he was recently married to Donna Dixon, who was in the movie too, and they had rented a big, beautiful house with a sauna and all that stuff. So they would have people over there. And it was just a blast. I couldn't even believe my luck. I mean, it was just a dream come true.
So during this time, I mean, you were still primarily a model during this time, right? You were
Mhm.
getting into acting. Did this kind of, boost your modeling career even more, or kind of what did that impact have on your other?
Well, I mean, yeah, I was modeling and I had done a few commercials. But yeah, not really until the movie came out did I sort of get a bump in in any kind of career boost. But and I do remember I was fortunate enough to get signed by William Morris, which was a big agency at the time and still is a big agency. So I actually, I really wanted to focus more on acting.
Yeah.
And so I took it really seriously. And unfortunately, my agent sent me out on some really big movies, and I mean, I was literally, 18 turning 19, and I really didn't know what I was doing. So I went in, I think I blew, I think I blew a few auditions, and I'm like, oh dear, I better figure out what I'm doing before I go in for the next one. So I did really focus the next couple of years. I went to the actor studio and I studied, and I did a few little acting jobs in New York, but my primary source of income was print modeling and a few commercials here and there. So I did have to do that too.
Were there any actresses or actors or even movies that kind of inspired you growing up? Like, were there any that you kind of
Well,
focused on?
yeah, I remember watching that movie Frances with Jessica Lange, and I just thought she was just incredible. And I remember thinking that was like sort of a moment where I'm like, oh, I want to be an actor. Because I never really thought about it growing up. I did do school plays, and I was always sort of, slightly animated, but I never thought it was something I was do as a living. So I do remember seeing Frances and thinking, wow, she's so incredible, and I want to be able to do that. So that one comes to mind. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of great movies I saw when I was younger that inspired me.
So you snuck up on us in Baywatch, and you were in Baywatch when it was early Baywatch, right? And again, this became one of the hottest, most popular, most successful TV shows of all time. What was it like? Well, first, I'd love to hear kind of how you landed the role, but what was it like working on Baywatch?
It was, well, they shot that in LA, and I was still living in New York. And yeah, I think it was the biggest show globally at the time, and it still is, iconic. And I remember going in and reading for another role that was a series regular, and I didn't get that, but the showrunners really liked me, and so they sort of found this role of this marine biologist, Megan, and I came out here, and I mean, another dream come true. I mean, we're shooting on the beaches in Santa Monica and Topanga, and yeah, it was fun. I mean, I really didn't know what I was doing again. Still, it's like, because I had done a lot of theater sort of training, but there's so much technical stuff when you get on a set.
Yeah.
And I remember the crew was so nice to me on Baywatch, because I would literally like walk into a scene and look down at my mark to make sure I hit it. And those are the little technical things that you just don't know when you're really green. And you have to learn how to do all that stuff so you're not actually like look like you're doing it. So they were really sweet, and David Hasselhoff was really sweet. And again, everybody was just really welcoming, and it was patient if I was like messing up on something. But I mean, I always went in really as prepared as I could.
Yeah.
But there's certain technical things that take a while to figure out.
I mean, Baywatch, I mean, it's a very physical role, right? So was there any prep that you needed to do beforehand? Like how much of the scenes did you require like a stunt person, or what was that like?
Yeah, I remember the one. Well, I remember the episode, I think is called "The One That Got Away," and I get like attacked by a fisherman or something. And I think I had a stunt double for a couple of those things, and there was a lot of sort of running into the ocean, and it was always like 6 in the morning when it was freezing. And I think I did most of that stuff, but I think there was a body double for. But I remember in that episode, I really didn't know that when you're doing a rehearsal, you don't give 100%. And I remember we were doing rehearsal and I was like giving 100%. And so by the time we actually got to like film it, I was like exhausted because it was like, sort of, scene where I'm like being thrown on the ground, and it was very, sort of emotional. And so that was a lesson I learned on Baywatch. You don't give it all away in your rehearsal.
Did you get a chance to watch the remake with the Rock, the movie that came out?
No, I never did. I never saw the movie. It's really bad of me. I should.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty. There was a David Hasselhoff cameo in there, so I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I will definitely have to check it out. Yeah.
I want to jump into Kingpin. I mean, the fan in me wants to jump right into Kingpin, but before Kingpin, you also snuck up on us in another movie, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Yes.
I can't let you get out of here without sharing with me a Sly story. And that was, if I remember correctly, I mean, this was the scene where he was going to pick up his mom, and she had been talking to everybody on the airplane about her son, and were kind of flirting with him. You kind of flirted with him. I mean, what was it like shooting that?
Well, you know what? I actually have to say I didn't have a very good experience because I was cast as another stewardess, the one that had all the dialogue. And we did rehearsals, and then we broke for lunch, and then we came back from lunch, and apparently he didn't like me. So I got demoted to the sort of like one line or something. So it wasn't a very good experience. I don't think he likes me very much, or he didn't at that time. So don't really know what that was about, but.
So I'm not saying this because I have you on, but you're the stewardess that I remember. So.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
You're the one that I remember. So you're the one that stuck for me. So.
Well, I must have rubbed in the wrong way or something, because that's really what happened.
Well, I mean, it's Rocky, you know what I mean? So this is right after Rocky 5. So, he's probably still, but definitely wanted to sneak in, because that was one of those films that it was one of those movies that's kind of become like a cult classic that people appreciate more now. So I definitely couldn't let you sneak out without a slide.
Well, I've never told that story before, so no disrespect to Stallone. I think he's a wonderful talent, and if he has every right to not like me. But I remember I had auditioned for the role, so it was like, it's not like it was just handed to me or anything. But who knows? He was having a bad day or something, or I was having a bad day.
I've had the privilege of meeting him twice, and we on this podcast we interviewed Frank Stallone. So definitely, huge fan of both.
Yeah, no, me too. So no, I'm only sharing that story because it's the truth, but I still think he's great. So
So another underrated film that's become a cult classic that I just had, and again, not in preparation for this interview, I happened to watch it last week. It's one of those movies that's always on, and it's like, it doesn't matter if it's midway, beginning, or end. You're stuck. You got to watch the movie through. Kingpin. And Bill Murray, Woody Harrelson, Randy Quaid. I have so many questions that I want to ask about this film, but I guess the first one would be, how did you first hear about the role, and how did you land the role?
Okay, so I was doing the TV show Weird Science, and my agent sent me the script, and they said they're doing this movie in a few months, so read it and see what you think. And I read it, and I thought it was hilarious. But it was like literally a couple of months later, and I went in to meet them. I had many rounds of going in to win this role. And I think that I was definitely the dark horse. I know that, I know Peter Farrelly had seen me on Weird Science and sort of liked my energy, because he wanted someone who was sort of a ball buster, but also sweet. And so they were looking for a very specific kind of vibe for Claudia. And I went in, and I went really well. And then we read, I think, 3 scenes. And then I went in again. And then I had a final callback, which was reading with Woody. And I remember it was in a sort of weird, like, theater room where it was actually like a theater. So I was sort of like put up on stage. And Woody decided that he actually didn't want to read the scene with me. He wanted to watch. So that kind of threw me for a second, because I was like anticipating reading with him. And it's, you sort of see what your energy's like together. But so I did that reading, and then I found out, I think maybe 2 weeks later, Woody wanted to talk to me on the phone. you get a little bit of sense of who I was and outside of the audition. And so I had a conversation with him, and then the next day I found out that I got it. And so I was just so thrilled. And I think it was at the end of the day, it was between me and oh my gosh, I'm completely blanking on who it was now, but it was somebody much bigger than me. And yeah, I know like J-Lo had auditioned for, there was like a lot, it was tough competition. And yeah, I was just so grateful, so grateful.
I mean, you made it your own. I personally can't imagine anyone else playing the role. Every time I think of that film, I always think of you, obviously. So very thankful that you landed it. You made it your own. It was just an amazing movie. And Bill Murray, right? So he's the villain. But I mean, it just depends. I mean, is he a villain? He's kind of like a nice villain in this movie.
Yeah.
He's just Bill Murray. But so you mentioned that you'd met him obviously during Spies Like Us, right? Did he remember you? What did he say about the movie or working with you again? How was that interaction?
Yes. It's kind of interesting story actually, because we shot it in Pittsburgh. And so I had flown to Pittsburgh, and there was maybe like 5 or 6 days before we were actually going to start shooting. And I went to a Penguins game with Peter and a couple other people, Peter Farrelly. And I think Jim Carrey was actually supposed to play that role. And then he fell out the last minute. And so they were discussing like, oh, who can we replace him with? Bill Murray's name came up, and I had met Bill through Dan Aykroyd, and he's very, very hard to get a hold of. He's got like he's infamous for like being like really elusive. And at that time, way back in the day, he had a 1-800 number, and you would leave a message and he would call you back. And so I had the number, and I mean, obviously Peter, you know, they were all with the agency CAA, and they were trying to go through the regular route to get him to read it at least. And I remember calling, and I think Randy Quaid also knew him, so he also had called. So we there was sort of like 3 different ways of trying to get hold of Bill, and he read the script and he loved it, and he was excited that I was doing it, and obviously all the other people involved too. And I think I've heard a story from Peter that like they didn't even know if he was actually going to show up until like the day before his role started shooting, and he turned up, and lo and behold, he's Ernie McCracken, and forever, known as that. So yeah, it was amazing.
That would be very interesting, obviously, if we saw Jim Carrey. I mean, I have no doubt that he could play that role really, really well. But Bill Murray was awesome. His hair was just as famous as he was in that movie. I mean, that thing was doing so many different things.
The hair became really famous in that movie, and Woody at the time, he had some hair there, and he actually shaved that to have that comb over look. And so the hair kind of became like this. I mean, my hair, I had like horrible bangs at that time. So that's the one thing I don't like about, but yeah, so the hair, everybody had sort of quite crazy hair in that movie.
And with Randy Quaid too, I mean, this was right at the same time of Independence Day, and also right after Bye Bye Love. So I mean, like everyone, I mean, this was like a really, really good time for for everyone. I mean, I have to ask too, like Randy Quaid, I love him also in Vegas Vacation, the vacation movies. What was it like working? I don't think that movie could be as special as it was without our Amish friend Randy Quaid.
Well, he was a joy. I mean, he was just so. I remember I had my birthday over the shoot, and he bought me this little birthday gift. He was just the sweetest, thoughtful. Just made everybody feel comfortable. Just one of those guys that like makes everybody feel comfortable, and made me feel really comfortable. And he's a sweetheart, just a sweetheart.
So probably one of the most memorable scenes in the movie, I think you know which scene I'm gonna go to, was the fight scene between you and Woody. Right. So I have a few questions on this scene. One, how much of this scene is you? Because there's a couple acrobatical scenes where you get slammed on the car.
Yeah,
so
that's a body double.
How much of that scene was you?
Well, the whole thing with the boob punching was thrown in at the last minute, because that wasn't in the script. And I remember Peter said, "Oh, we're gonna put this mechanical thing under your sweater, and he's gonna pummel it, and it's gonna be really funny." And I was like, "Really?"
Great scene.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like, trust me, it's gonna be great because and the thing was like huge contraption, and I was like,
Right.
made my boobs like bigger than my head, and I'm like, this is weird. Um, but it worked, and it was, so funny. And yeah, when the fight got sort of too serious and when flips and on the car and stuff like that, that you have to have a body double because obviously you can't get hurt because they need you the next day to shoot other scenes. So yeah, I had a body double. It was freezing. It was Pittsburgh. It was November, and
Wow.
it was really cold. You can actually like see our breath coming out of our mouths. It
Yeah.
was cold, but it was, yeah, really funny scene.
Do you think I know it's been a little while, but do you think we can get a Kingpin 2?
Yeah.
That movie always needed a sequel. I think we need to
It's
bring
gonna
those
get a
guys back.
sequel. That's what I hear. I mean, I don't know really how much I'm supposed to say about it, but yes. So it's odd to me that it's like literally 25 years later, as like a huge gap between a first and a sequel. But yes, apparently it's happening. So
Is there a script written? Has there been?
there is a script written. I haven't read it yet, but I know my character is in it.
Wow.
So fingers crossed.
Can you say if Woody's coming back?
I can't, I really don't have any details other than than that. So,
No, I
but
mean
that would be just so exciting.
that would be awesome. That would be awesome. I mean, I definitely would love to see a sequel, a movie that deserves a sequel.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited. So yeah, just any news on Kingpin is exciting. So we'll use that as an excuse to bring you back once we get more.
Yes, and I'll let you know when I have more info, like details about it.
Now, another film that I think deserves a sequel that you were in that was hilarious and an amazing movie that I just happened to watch a few weeks ago recently was Hall Pass.
Oh, so funny.
And
So funny.
again, so many questions that I want to ask, but again, how did you first hear about the role and what was it like working with Owen Wilson?
Oh, it was great. And Jason Sudeikis,
Yeah.
yeah, he was great. It was great. I mean, it was the Farrelly brothers again. So they'd actually sort of thought about me for the Christina Applegate role initially, but then they wanted someone a little more sort of all-American, wholesome.
Yeah.
So then they're like, well, come play this role, Missy, and it's a great scene with Jason Sudeikis. Although my main scene with him actually got cut from the short version of the movie. I think it's
Yeah,
even like
yeah, I've seen it. Should have been in the movie.
yeah. But it was just great. I mean, they shot it in Atlanta, so I flew to Atlanta for a few days and work. I mean, it was just great to be on the set with them again. They make everything just so much. You feel like you're working with your family. I mean, and they literally have their family and friends come and do like little cameos and small roles, and a lot of the crew are the same people that they work with all the time. So it's just such. I mean, I know people talk about how great sets well, sometimes they're not always great, but they truly are. They truly create just the best atmosphere on the set. It couldn't be better.
Now, I mean, this was 16 years, almost over 15 years after Kingpin that you're working with the Fairley brothers again. Was it just like how it was when you left the set on Kingpin, or have they changed, or were they any different this time around?
It was kind of the same. It was weird. It was like no time had really passed. Peter's always the one that sort of more works with the actors, and Bobby tends to sit more back by the monitors and kind of. I mean, they're always conferring with each other, but no, it was weird. It was kind of strange because it was very much like no time had passed, and it was great. They always create the best vibe on the set. So, and Jason was great. Most of my stuff was with Jason, so he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, the deleted scene that we're talking about is the one where he comes to your house and he's letting you know that he has a hall pass. And again, like you were so like understanding in the beginning, but then once things started to click,
Yeah.
hey, you're a jerk. Like, what are you asking me right now? And it's funny because I feel like I in a director's cut like that, I've seen that scene multiple times. Like I always felt like that scene was a part of the movie. So maybe in the director's cut it's there because yeah, I mean that like when you watch it like on TV, it's not.
Not there, right?
Director's cut, it is, and it's like that scene definitely needed to make the final cut.
Yeah, I know. I remember going to the premiere and the scene wasn't in it, and I was like, "What?" It was really other. She just sort of is mentioned in the beginning at that sort of party, and then she just sort of doesn't. There's no follow up, and I always thought that was a little strange, but you know, most people have found it that want to find it. So, but yeah, it was disappointing when it wasn't in the original cut.
Any talks for a sequel for Hall Pass?
Not that I've heard of, but who knows?
Awesome, awesome. And one fan question that I always love asking our guests, when you guys are not working, because we know how busy you guys are, what are the shows that you guys binge watch? What are you binge watching when you're not working?
I am binge watching Afterlife right now, which is so incredible with Ricky Gervais. I'm finished. I finished like 2 days ago, and I'm sad because it's over. And I love Schitt's Creek. I
Mhm.
mean, I know that's not like a super new show or anything, but yeah, I love those kind of quirky, strange comedies. And yeah, those two. You know, I haven't actually been watching as much programming as I used to for some reason. I'm sort of more into being outdoors and hiking and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, but I just literally finished Afterlife. It's so good. Like everybody should watch it. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. And I mean, you've been quite busy as well too. Are you able to share some of your upcoming projects?
Yeah, I did a movie in September with Megan Fox called Johnny and Clyde, and sort of a remake of Bonnie and Clyde. Is it Bonnie and Clyde? Yeah, Bonnie and Clyde. Um, and that was fun. And then I just came back from Mexico. Actually, I was in Cancun for 2.5, 3 weeks doing a movie called Deadly Games. And I mean, they couldn't ask for a better location. It was it was like
Yes.
how lucky am I to get to go to Cancun? And then I went down to Tulum for a couple of days just for fun for myself, and it was great experience, great experience. And then I'm about to go to two Christmas movies, actually with the same producers as did the Megan Fox movie.
Wow.
So yeah, and so I'll be in Rhode Island for a little bit doing those, and yes, and yeah, and then I've been, yeah, actually, I mean, the pandemic definitely slowed down things down a little bit, but I did a few projects in that window. What one actually was very interesting. It was based on this woman who's really had a real life pregnancy, and she wrote this script about that, and then the pandemic hit, and she had to incorporate that into it. And I had to she sort of changed a lot of scenes to like FaceTime calls, and I mean, it was like guerrilla filmmaking. It was like literally we'd like be shooting like just with like an iPhone, and then I mean, and she put together and her and her husband put together this incredible movie, and it got bought by HBO Max, and it was called 37 Weeks, but now it's called a Single Mom by Choice. But it's really good. It's really good. Yeah.
Do you also write any of your own projects? Have you ever written anything or any plans for directing?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't ever. I mean, I like to write, but not really screenplays. Like I'm more sort of a prose writer. But no, I haven't written and I haven't directed. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I also have a passion for screenwriting, and this is kind of like my Bible right here too. So hopefully
Oh,
one day
yeah.
I can write something where I can have you be the star in.
Yes. Oh, sign me up.
Maybe Kingpin 5.
Yeah, no, writing's it's a great gift. I mean, it's like I find it really. I mean, I've written. I mean, read obviously so many scripts. I mean, I've been doing this for 37 years or something. And I still like haven't figured out how to really do great dialogue, even though as an actor I know like what it is to speak good dialogue, to what an actor wants from good dialogue. So I don't know why I haven't been able to really translate that into my own writing skills, but it's a talent. So hopefully you enjoy it and we'll get your first thing made.
That would be amazing. And Vanessa, I want to be respectful of your time. I know it's Valentine's Day, and I know things are probably crazy in LA now with the Rams winning the
Yes,
Super
the
Bowl.
Rams
So
won. Yeah.
that was a crazy. The halftime show was wild.
Oh,
The game
was it
was
great?
insane. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a 49er fan, so I'm a little bummed our team missed out, but still
Yeah.
happy that California was able to produce a Super Bowl winner. So that was
Yeah, I think LA needed it because it's been, it's had a rough time the last couple of years. I mean, everyone's had a rough time, right? But it was a nice win for LA and for the Rams. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Vanessa, thank you again for joining. Want to save some room and we'll welcome you for round two. And can't thank you enough for joining. I was trying to keep the fan in me from coming out because I've been a huge fan of yours for so long.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much for joining, and we'll
Thanks
talk
so
soon.
much. All right. All the best.
Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Take care.